Right. It's all right. So again, hi everyone. I'm gonna be sharing my screen now. So this is just like general things about SAT. That's what we're gonna be focusing on today. And just again, I want to know how many of you all are giving SAT for the first time, or if you've already given it. All right, that's okay. I'm gonna be sharing my screen. All right. So if you can see it, a PPT, just let me know, and we will begin. Okay. All right. Can you guys see the PPT that I'm showing? Like, is it
Yeah.
audible? And is my voice audible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. All right. So let us start with like the most basic thing, yeah, for SAT preparation. I don't. So now it changed from the pen and paper style to the digital section. Okay, and in fact, you all are very lucky because the pen and paper was longer and it was more lengthy. It was just a little like harder in general. Now for me, all right. Okay. So I was gonna tell this later on, but I'll just tell a little bit about what happened with me. I gave SAT in the first attempt in August 26th, and I got a 1500. I got a 780 in math and 720 in English. I was aiming for 800 in math, but in the end, I did not have time, so I had to guess a couple of questions. But English, yeah, I found English more like harder in general because I don't know if you guys know this, but people are usually like English smart or math smart, and I find math much easier. But yeah, anyways, I'll be telling you guys how to like improve on both the things. So talking about the digital SAT, it is divided into four parts, or like four different sets of exam that you'll have to give. Now, I'm sure like most of you have already started your stat prep and you know the different like concepts that are in it, but I'll just like brief you guys again. So you're gonna have two sections. The first will be of English, and then it's gonna be math. And in the first, as you can see, there's reading and writing module 1 and module 2, and each is 32 minutes long with 27 questions each. So another thing to know about this digital SAT, which is very important, is that you have very less time. Okay, so the amount of time that you're going to be getting to do every question is comparatively much less. So you need to understand how to be quicker. And one more thing that makes it slightly harder is that you see the second section in both these things, right? Module 1 and module 2 in reading and writing and math, they're adaptive. So based on how you perform in the first module, it's going to be harder or easier. So for example, let's say in module 1, I did really well. Like I maybe got like one or two mistakes, right? So my module 2, my questions are gonna be harder. Okay, that's the same thing in math. So it's both of them are gonna be harder or easier based on how you perform in the first one. So first one is general for everyone, and then later on it's like based on how you do. Okay. So yeah, that's basically the thing. And in the middle of it, you're gonna have a 10-minute break. I had it as well in my exam center, and you can just go out, like do whatever you want for like 10 minutes, and you come back and then continue your test. Okay. So now again with the adaptive testing, what happened with me was I every time I did the SAT exams, right, even when I was doing the practice test or like doing tests in general, like I thought that the first one was okay. All right, reading especially. I'm sorry. Okay. All right, yeah. So what happened with me every time I was practicing, I would do the first module very well. Like I would just do it like it was comparatively easy for me, right? But then later on, every time I reached the second module, it was much harder. Like it would take me really longer to do it. The questions were actually harder, and I would not get time to complete it. So you really want to focus that that's not the case with you, and that basically starts with practicing more and more. Okay. I'll just explain the different things that are written here, and then yeah, like we can look into more specific tips. So as you can see, it's multiple choice questions. For reading and writing, everything is going to be multiple choice, and with math, there are going to be some questions which ask you to type down the answer. You usually don't like lose marks on typing because you have many different options on how you can type it down, but you do want to go to SAT website and just check it out, like how exactly you type this. You don't want to like lose an error just because you typed it wrong. Okay, that's it. And then okay, the scoring, yeah, obviously every it's out of 1600, you have 800 in English and 800 in math. And to be very honest, you want to score your best in the first attempt. Okay, like you don't want to keep on dragging it like longer and longer. And if you can do your best in the first attempt itself, then then it's kind of one work less for you. You don't have to like think about doing it again and again. Because I know so many people, like they're like, okay, first attempt you usually don't get that great, or you want to do it like twice or thrice. But I feel like you, if you do for an attempt, first attempt only really well, you wouldn't want to postpone it more and more. There's also another concept that's used. So for example, if I gave sat twice, and in one of them I scored really good in English, and in the other one I scored really good in math, they will take the best out of the scores. So if you do think of giving it twice, or like if you give sat once already, and if one of your scores is really well and the other is not, if you want to give it again, you can think about focusing more on the second, or like the part that you didn't score that well. So if you do think of doing it twice, then this is one thing to think about. Okay, so this is the overall overall format. I hope no one has any questions. If they have, you can ask right now. That's okay. I'm gonna move on to the next slide. Okay, right. So we're gonna move on to SAT sources. Like, where do you actually study from? So first is the actual college board SAT, right? Now, where I found the best help from was Blue Book. So if you guys don't already have this app, please download it like as soon as possible. Bluebook is the official app in which you'll be giving your test, okay? And I downloaded like way before I was actually giving the test, because when you join Bluebook, you have 4 practice tests that are in the app. So these are exactly like how the actual SAT will be, right? It has the adaptive testing, it has all the features. So if you're already familiarized with how it's going to take place, so you do want to make sure that you know the format very well. And then next is Khan Academy. I also found this really helpful, because Khan Academy basically breaks down every single concept that you have. All right, wait one second. I just want to see if someone is in the waiting room. Okay, I don't think so. Yeah, okay, cool. So Khan Academy, like I said, it's very helpful because it breaks down the entire syllabus to you. Okay, it's gonna have every single concept that is going to be coming the test, and you can learn everything individually. So for example, if I want to practice on only one certain thing, I can do that. Like in English, I wasn't great at like for example, okay, if you take any concept in English, if I found it difficult, I could just practice those questions again and again and again, and that's kind of better instead of doing the entire thing in itself. And also Khan Academy is partnered with college boards, so they're going to give you questions that are like most likely to be asked. So it is like overall pretty well. Also, just one more thing, this is especially for the people who are giving it for the first time. Now what happened with me was, I was going to Khan Academy and I did sign up for the course, and I saw this official SAT practice preparation, right? And they had like 10 practice tests. It was like a full breakdown for you, like what you should do on every day. And I think I gave like 6 or 7 of those tests, but then they were 3 hours long. So I was like confused, but I was like, okay, whatever, this might be how the SAT is, but it's actually not, because I was practicing for the old SAT. Because right now in US they still do the pen and paper SAT. So Khan Academy still has that preparation. So before you do, just make sure you're on the correct one. If you sign up and make an account, you can do the full digital SAT English and math prep. So make sure you're only doing that. But also, if in case any of you did accidentally do the wrong exams, that is not a worry either. You're still getting more and more practice, so it is still beneficial for you, right? Even if it's not the correct format. But my point is that before the exam, you need to be well rehearsed, well practiced with the actual format, so that once you do it, you're not bombarded with like new questions, or questions that you've not seen before. That's gonna get you very like confused. All right, so these are the other things. And okay, apart from this, what other resources are there? I think if you search on Google, there's not that many full-length practice tests. There's just one website I remember which gives you one free practice test. You can do that. And then apart from that, the fact portal in itself, it has so many questions. It has all like full practice length tests, at least I think 4 or 6 of them before your SAT. So do practice those as well. And I think there's a textbook called as Barron's Math Textbook. It was provided us by our fact tutor. So if you can ask your fact tutors, I'm sure they will give you that as well. I personally did not prepare from any textbook as such, but if you have extra time on your hands and if you want to go ahead, that's up to you. You just have more and more practice, so it's great. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next one. Now, STAT study plan. So these are just things I'm going to be talking about in general that you need to like remember and take care of to score the best overall. Now, first, like I said, attempt your best. Like you want to do your best in the first attempt and not like extend it forward. Like for me, in my case, like I said, like I wanted to score better in maths. But for me, it's like high time. I'm right now in grade 12 and I have to start applying to colleges. So if I was going to do SAT once again, I might be improving by maybe 20 or 30 points or like 20 or 30 marks. But instead of that, I can spend that time, working on my essays and things like those. So I didn't do it again. But in your case, I'm just saying if you guys do have time or like if you do want to like lessen your pressure, just try to do your best in the first attempt. And that's just gonna be easier for you. You don't have to do the whole course again. Now, focusing on basics and root concepts. Okay, so let me talk about the actual SAT difficulty. Okay, now I can't say the same for everyone because everyone has different like potentials and capacities and what they're better at or not. But for me, math was genuinely easy. Okay, like I studied in 12th ISC and I chose math in grade 11, 12th. And I think compared to that, the math concepts that you have is probably from grade 8, like grade 8 to 10. That is the level of math that is honestly there in SAT. So if you have math as a subject, it's gonna be definitely much easy for you. But even though I'm saying it's easy, it does not mean that you do not need to practice it. You definitely need to practice it. It's very formula based, so you need to know the different formulas. They do put a lot of focus into algebra, right? Like some of them are like actually so easy, like you're gonna be like in my exam I was like, is this actually in question? Because it was that easy, right? But as much as I'm focusing on the easier part, it's still not like you cannot just simply leave it aside. Okay, like I have still, while I was practicing, I missed so many marks just because I didn't read the question properly or I put the wrong information. So you don't do not want to let that like get into your head, like, oh, it's easy, I'm gonna be able to do it. Like you still need to practice and like refine your skills. And that's what I'm saying, focusing on basic or root concepts. So if you're a person who struggles with like math, that's okay. Like that's completely fine. That is why like things like your fact tutors and Khan Academy come into help because they're going to be teaching you things from the basics. So if any of your concept is not cleared, use this time to work on that and just overall know everything that's going to be coming for the like math part especially. And for English, okay, English is completely different. Okay, like I have English like obviously throughout my school, but it's not the same like that. It's very grammar focused. You will need to like really understand the rules. And why I'm saying this is because, okay, so you cannot by heart the rules either. Okay, like I'll give you an example in a little bit, but you will need to really understand the rule in itself. Now, okay, if any of you have been doing the practice like SATs, you must be knowing the use of semicolon, right? Like, does everyone know about the use of semicolon, like where it's used?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so like how it's used to join two independent clauses, right? Now, I think this is 100% going to be one or two of your questions in your stat. Okay, they're going to be giving you a sentence and they will put however or moreover in the middle of it, and then they will give you four options in which two of them will have a semicolon and two of them will have commas. So most of the time the commas is wrong. Okay, it's gotta have a semicolon if the word is in the middle of a sentence. But then I used to always get confused, is it before the word or after the word? And what I did was during my practice test, I put, however, the semicolon before the word, and I got it wrong. So they said that it should always be after the word. Then I by hearted that. I'm like, okay, every time I see a question like this, I'm just gonna put it after, and that should be correct. I did that on my next practice test, and I got it wrong because that is not what the rule is. You really need to see what the question is asking, because okay, if you understand this, the word however, moreover, it should be in that part of the segment which it's contradicting, right? So these little things like that, when you know about such certain rules so confidently, it really helps you because like I said, there is lesser time. So if you know about these rules, like if you already understand them during the test, you're not going to panic. You're not going to be thinking, oh, what's the rule, how do I apply it, or like things like that. You're really going to be already knowing how to do it. Okay, now we're setting time aside. Okay, so how are you going to actually like plan and practice your like SAT? Now I don't know what grade you're all in. Can you like, what grades are you all in?
12th.
Okay, so I okay, 12th or 11th. I think that's mostly going to be the grades you guys are in, right? And I had my like first term grade exams in September, like right after SAT, and I had like a 2 month break, right? So I had to um give time for SAT prep and my school exams, like grade 12 exams as well. So you need to understand how will you manage your time accordingly. That's again obviously completely onto you. Like how hard do you find the SAT course? What are other commitments that you have right now? Because for me, like I think a week before the test, or like at least 5 days before the test, I was completely only focusing on SAT. Like I was just doing questions again and again. I was just practicing the core concepts again and again. That's what I did. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that you guys should start your test like 1 week before. You should definitely like start it before, but just know it. And okay, I'm not saying that I only did it 1 week before. Like I was in the SAT course, like with the fact how the tutors teach you from the basics, everything. I was still in a part of it, but for myself, like I started it like a good month ish, but then 1 week before was when I like intensely only did that. Okay, next is focusing on your strengths and weakness. Okay, so this is again based on how close is your exam. Now I'm not sure your test is going to be in October, right? Like how close is it? What's the exact date? All right. Okay. So I'm assuming, like, I know that the next SAT, right? It's in October. I don't know. I'm not aware about the exact date. I'm sorry about that. But based on that, you need to see, like, is this a time that I will be actually able to learn about my weaknesses and completely change them? Or should I focus on my strengths, right? Like, this is something that you need to give your thought. Like, should I focus and refine my skills that are my strengths, or are they good enough already? Or should I completely work on my weaknesses and start from the basics? I remember that while I was preparing for SAT, someone told that before your exam you should forget about your weaknesses. Now only work on your strengths. Like if it's your weakness, that's okay, only like be 100% about your strengths. I don't fully agree with it. Honestly depends on you. If you think you are going to be able to like learn all the things that are required, that's okay, you can just go ahead with that. Okay, next is practice, practice, practice. Like I said, practice is the most important thing in SAT. Like, I'm going to go back to the time management part again. I know I'm talking about it again and again, but that's how important it is. Like, even though you know all the concepts, even though, like, you're very smart, but time can really take a toll on you. Like, that's what happened with me, right? Like, for example, in math, the first section, I did it really well. I had like a good 10 to 15 minutes left as well, like, once I finished, because it is easy. But then the second module, it is actually very harder. Like it's much harder. You cannot simply do it like with ease. You have to be quick on your toes. You have to really focus and do it. So the more you practice, the quicker you'll be able to do the questions. And that's really just the thing. I remember I asked like, I mean, my seniors in school, like, who did really well in SAT, and they're like, just do more and more papers. That's also another important thing. Like, you might have done the individual concepts, but if you don't do full length papers, like full length tests, you will not be able to assess how good you are at it. So for example, like when I started the SAT prep, like before I even started the concepts, I started with doing practice tests, right? I think my first practice test I got like a 1400 or something. See, you have 4 practice tests, so think about it wisely. Don't do all of them at once. Like, give it a break in between them, because you can do it again, but you will know the questions already. So like, you want to do it properly. Like, do one maybe 2 days before a test, and then like 5 days before a test, and things like that. So every time, see, your aim is that every time you do the practice test, you want to score more and more. Like, you don't want to drop, you want to score more than you did before. And like, I'm just saying that you guys should have like a score in mind. Like, okay, like keep a score in your mind, like what you want to actually get. I remember like my dad always used to ask me, okay, before my exams, like, okay, how much are you aiming for? How much do you want? And I used to say 1500, just because that was honestly how much like I wanted to get. Like, I wanted to touch that score. But then in my practice test, I wasn't even getting that grade. I would get like 1400s, and it wasn't that great. But during my actual like stat exam, it went like, I wasn't even aware how well it went. Like, I wasn't sure, because like I said, the second modules were very hard for me. So I wasn't sure. But then, like I said, everything does work out. So if you do practice and stuff, it's gonna be fine. But yeah, like, that's one thing. You got to take the test a little seriously, at least, to be able to like spend time on it. Okay, next is understanding question pattern. I think I said a little bit about this. see, the more and more you're going to practice, you're going to know what kind of questions they're going to ask. Like I said, for example, I gave you the however, moreover, semicolon example, right? The more and more questions you do, you will know the exact pattern. Like even for math questions, it's like that. Like they will only ask you certain kind of questions. And if you practice more, like during exam, you already know, like, oh, I've already done a question like this. I know how to solve it. So during your test, I'm just saying you don't want to see a completely new question that you haven't practiced, because that really sets you off. You want to try to not panic yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, during your test, just do not panic, because I know 30 minutes or like 35 minutes does sound like a lot, but when you're doing each and every question, it is not a lot of time. Like I think in the previous uh 1 second, in the previous, okay, see, in this slide they did tell you like how much time you have overall. I think you only have like 71 seconds or like 95 seconds time per question. And even that, like, okay, see, there are still some questions you can be able to do very easily because that doesn't require a lot of effort, and then there's some which are harder, so you don't want to space out your time and you want to have enough time overall. Okay. Like I said, okay, I already talked about taking tests and then the understanding the adaptive testing. Like I said, it's gonna be harder and you don't want to focus on the second part. Now I'm just gonna give you guys a couple of tips about the Blue Book app in itself. I just want to know, do have all of you like downloaded or like seen the Blue Book app?
No, I haven't.
No.
Yeah, I also have it.
Okay, so some have it, some don't. Okay. Have any of you given like practice tests till now?
Yeah, I did one full-time test.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so I'll just give you like a couple of tips for the app in itself. Those who don't have it, download it like right after this meeting, because you will know what the app actually looks like and what are the things in it. Now, in the app, you're gonna have something called as the elimination option. Like there's a section with which you can just directly eliminate stuff, right? Like you can eliminate options, and this is very helpful. Okay, now, don't do this for every single question. That's going to waste time. But if there's a question that I'm not sure about, let's say, like, there's a question in English, there are 4 options, and I don't know the answer. Now, when I eliminate the options, right? Like, for example, let's say I eliminated 2 options, then I don't know which is the correct one. I can just leave and go to the next one, because at the end, okay, sorry. So when you eliminate, you can also flag questions. Like you come back to that question. So if I come back to it, I have already eliminated the options that I know are not correct. So I don't have to see all the 4 options again. I only have to see the ones that I'm confused about. So in this way, it kind of helps you to make your time like not be wasted that much. Like I said, time is the most important thing in this exam. And another thing about the marking question. See, I'm going to be very honest, okay? In math, it honestly depends on how fast you are. Like in the first module, like I said, I had like good 10 to 15 minutes to see through all my questions. But then in the second one, I had no time at all. Like I had to guess two or three questions just because I did not have time. Like I wasted too much time in the previous questions. You don't want that happening to you. So think about your questions wisely. Like if you feel like you're wasting a lot of time on a certain question, just leave it and move on. And if you feel like you'll be able to do it, then just continue it, right? You have to be proactive and think on your toes. Even with English, the maximum time I used to have in general was maybe like 5 minutes or like less than 5 minutes to look through my questions. And I'm being very honest, you're not going to get time to look through each and every question at end of any module, okay? Like you will not have the time to see each and every question again or like revise. Like how for exams, I think most of you might be doing like you'll go back to all the questions and see. You won't get the time for SAT. So when you are attempting it, just at that moment before going on to the next question, just make sure that you did read the question correctly and you have the correct option, so that later you don't have to think about, oh, should I come back to the question or not. And that makes sense. Like you won't have to come back and see, did I do this question right or wrong, right? So in this way, you're at least more like sure within yourself. Now this is just about me. I don't know if all of you agree as well, but I'm very paranoid. Okay, like I'm very paranoid about the correct answer. Like I wouldn't know, even though like it's 90% the correct answer. If I do not know for sure, I'm still going to flag it. Like I'll still flag it and want to come back to it. Now, like I said, you wouldn't have that much time. So if you are like, let's say 80% or like 70% sure that this is the correct answer, maybe just like just go on with it. Like, really trust your gut. Like in SAT, like a lot of times you will have to trust your gut. You will have to like just go on with what you think is the correct answer, especially for things like English. Now with English, one difficulty that I found were vocabulary questions. Okay, now in my SAT, like when I actually gave the official test, I think I had like a good four 3 to 4 questions on vocabulary, like word meanings. Okay, and these were words that I genuinely did not know. Like I had not like learned the word, or like I did not know about the word. Okay, and in my options, like see, like I said, with elimination you will be able to cross out some of them, but you will still not know for a fact 100% for sure. So I'll give you guys a couple of tips. Now obviously, okay, you must have heard that, okay, you should read books, you should read newspapers and articles. Although that is true, if your test is near, you don't have that time. You cannot like sit with the dictionary and learn all the words, right? So I'll just tell you like how you can make that better. There's a website called as Word a Day, in which they teach you like a new word every single day. So at least, even if you have, let's say, like 20 days for a test, you can still like kind of learn a couple of new words. Maybe that might help you. That is still like looking a bit too far ahead. If you still want to like be sure about vocabulary, you can learn something called word roots. Okay, now, what word roots essentially is that like for every word, like for example, I don't know, like let's say like ability, or some word like that. Okay, it has a prefix and a suffix. So with the prefix, you can get to know if the word is like negative or positive. So with a certain, if even if you know like a part of the word, you can make out what is the whole meaning. So you can definitely search this up on internet or YouTube, and you will find like a lot of concepts regarding such, and it's definitely gonna help you like understand the word. So even if you know some words or don't, it's gonna help you overall. So yeah, that is one of my tips. Now, like, okay, so let me go back to English. A couple of things I want to say. Like I said, you need to really understand the rules with vocabulary. If you read a lot, that's great, but like I said, instead of books, if you want to actually read, try maybe reading articles. Okay, and okay guys, also one more thing, you do want to improve your like reading speed. Okay, like with the new digital SAT, every single question has its own paragraph. Some of them are really long, some of them are pretty short. Okay, but you do want to you want to be able to read it and understand it. Okay, because what happened with me during the test was, sometimes if I see like a big paragraph, like even if it's like a little like pretty big, and I see the time, I start panicking because I'm like, will I be able to finish it or not? You need to be able to like calm down, take a breath, and actually understand the paragraph, because then only you'll be able to solve the questions. Because especially with inference questions, like they will ask you like certain thing about what was in the paragraph, you will need to understand it. So without that, you won't be able to do it. Now, okay, I'll tell you guys about the general structure. Okay, now in SAT English, the first couple of questions, like up until the half, like if they're like 27 questions, yeah, the 27 questions, right? So with the 27 questions, the last 4 or 5 questions will be inference questions. Like they will give you like 4 or 5 points, and they will ask you like to either summarize it, mostly summarization, right? And they're like the easiest questions. There's no way you should be getting this wrong. Okay, they will take, and like, even though there's a lot of details they give you, you don't need to read it all. You genuinely don't need to read it all. You only need to look at the question, and from the question itself, you'll be able to make out what is the answer. Like you just have to read the answer options carefully and then do that. So even if you think that you're reaching the end of your test but you have very little time, don't worry, because last questions are like comparatively easier. Usually the starting till the middle of it are longer questions, because see, after half of your questions are done, you're gonna start seeing like grammar questions, like commas questions, things with like adding a certain word, like you have to add like some moreover, however, you have to add a word like that. So all of these questions, they don't take that long to solve, because you just have to read the sentence. It's maybe one sentence and you answer it. So it's not that hard to do these kind of questions. So I heard someone also give a tip. They're like, you should start from the second half and then come back to the first one. That's again up to you. I don't really suggest it fully, because if you do end up spending a lot of time in the starting, you wouldn't be able to do that well later for the actual harder questions. So yeah, I mean, if you're okay to like trying out new tips, you can try it out. You got to like figure out what works the best for you. Don't want to be able to tell you like this is exactly what you should do. I'm just telling you all about all the different options that are out there, and you can pick the best for yourself. Okay, right. So this is, I think, all I had for English. I'm only going on to the math section. Now see, again, like I said with math, most of the things are generally from like grade 9 or 10 or even lesser. There are, however, some concepts that you might have learned in 11th. Like there's complex numbers, which we learned in grade 11. So there are things like that, but it's a very root level, okay? Like it is like the amount of calculation you're going to have to do, it's very less. It's not calculative. It's mostly just understanding the question. Now, one more thing. I generally struggled with graph questions. Like, they would give you a quadratic graph and they'd ask you questions like that. It was like slightly harder for me to do those kind of questions. But in the Blue Book app itself, they give you a Desmos calculator. Like it is a tool. You can directly use that calculator. And honestly, if you do panic in the exam about not knowing how to do a graph question, you can just put the exact question in your graph and you will find it. Like this tool that's there definitely makes it so much easier for you, because you can just like put the graph, draw the exact graph, and you'll be able to like know the answer. Like I don't know why they gave you a full like graphing calculator, but yeah, that is the option there. So with Blue Book, just know how to work a calculator, just know how to work that specific calculator, because it can be really helpful. Like if that happens. I think somebody said something in the chat. Okay, the Blue Book is the one by College Board, right? Yeah, this is the app by College Board. This is the app in which you're going to be giving your test. So you want to be familiar with it before your exam, and also just work it like before your test, right? Because you have an option to either use your own device or use the school's device. I chose my own device because I was already doing on it and it worked fine. So yeah, and like I said, it has 4 practice tests that you'll be able to do with the exact format. So it's pretty helpful. So yeah, like I said about math, know how to work a graphing calculator. It's the Desmos one. It's very simple. It just makes questions so much easier for yourself. Also, you can be getting, if you want to carry your own calculator, you can also do that. I took one because I was familiar with using it, and it's very easy to do simple quick calculations in it, because the Desmos calculator, it's not that great for actual calculations. Like it's a bit slow. Like if you're like type every number and do it, but if you have your own calculator, it's definitely much easier. Now, nothing with math. Like I said, okay. Also, they're gonna be giving you their own formula sheet. So if you go to the Desmos app, okay, I don't know if it'll open right now, but if you go to that app, yeah, and if you start a practice test, if you go to the math section, you will have like an information like button. If you go click on it, they will give you their own formula sheet with like formulas of volume for like certain like square and like cones and length, breadth, the square formulas, things like that. But don't completely rely on it. You want to know all the formulas by heart, because you don't want to go to the exam and then like try to remember what is the formula. Okay, the only thing you want to think about during the exam is how to solve the question and just directly solving it, not thinking, oh, what's the correct formula. That's what I'm saying with math. That is the only practice that's required for you to actually know all the formulas that are there. And this, like, if you want to go do this for sure, but what I had done, so I heard someone that they're like, okay, you should make your own formula sheet. For sure, if it helps you, that's amazing. It's very important to have formula sheet. But I found one online. I know I'm not teaching the best like test tip, but yeah, I found one online that had all the important formulas that were really there. I don't have it on me right now, but I will get it ready by the next session, so I can just directly send it to you guys. It had almost all the important formulas, and on my test day, like while I was in the car, I was just going through that and like seeing that and how to do that. So it kind of just made me feel better and like more prepared overall. um yeah, so I think for math, those are really just the most important things, like knowing formulas and applying them. There are certain concepts that are not really done in school. So, you have lines and the number of like solutions, infinite solutions, single solution or zero solution, things like those you might not have done in school. So just know that you know new things like that as well. Yeah, I think that was about all of the overall general tips I can think of, or like I had prepared. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'm just gonna like not like stop sharing my screen now. Yeah. And okay. All right. Do you guys have any questions and stuff to ask? Or like do you have any idea of how you want me to go about these sessions? You can let me know right now.
Actually, I had a question about the thing the blue book thing you were talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask that in blue book is
Hmm.
like the real ICT, do you give that also in blue book or what? Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Do you want me to show you the app if it'll make
Yeah,
you
I would
feel
love
like,
if like that.
okay, I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, all right. So I think you can see my screen right now. It takes a little bit like longer to load. Okay, see, this is the Blue Book app. It's just opening right now. It's gonna take a second or two. You can download it online. It's very easy. You can just search a Blue Book app and it'll give you like an installation link. You just press on that, it's gonna give it to you. It's just taking a second to load. So just let it stay. Yeah. So this is the Blue Book app. On the test day, yeah, you will be given your actual SAT on this. Now, when you're given practice tests, it is less lenient because when you're actually giving your SAT test, you cannot go out of the application. Like you cannot access anything else but the test. Okay, I don't know why it glitched. All right. Yeah, so I haven't used this in a hot minute, so it's not gonna completely show up, but yeah, we'll just wait for it to come. I'll just stop sharing till then. But yeah, on the actual SAT day, you will be giving your test on this. So, which is why, like I'm telling you, just better to be familiar with the entire format of test and how to work this. And like I said, it also has a calculator already in it. It's called as Desmos, and it makes math so much easier because if there are graphing questions, you can just directly put in it. You'll find the graph, and you can directly do that. So that is one tip. For example, if you don't know how to solve one. Okay, so this is the app has shown right now. I'll just start sharing my screen again.
Also, it is
Yeah.
used for
Okay.
the minimum and maximum value, right?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat it?
Also, it's used to find the minimum maximum value. You can just directly put the equation.
Yeah, exactly. So if you, I'm just gonna see if I can, yeah, okay. You have a college, okay, all right, okay. I think somebody else just joined in right now. Hi, you're a little bit late. I was telling about the tips and how the test is overall. Today was just a general session. You can watch recording if you want to, or if you have any questions, we're just asking questions right now. Yeah, okay. So this is how the app looks like. They're gonna tell you upcoming tests. Now, I don't have any upcoming tests, but since you're registered, it's gonna show you your upcoming test here. And this is like your practice stuff. So here you have test preview, you have full length tests. So you're gonna have like okay, so there's SAT. There are four kinds of SAT tests, like I said. And okay, guys, also, if you want to practice more, like I said, there's only four SAT tests, full length tests. And if you want more, there's one online in one link. I'll get that ready and send that to you as well next class. But there's also PSAT. So PSAT is basically SAT, but for like a less hard version. So it's usually for like kids who just enter high school. So if you still want to practice this, you can give PSAT 10, which is sort of similar to SAT. It's not as hard, but if you want to practice, this is for sure. You can go ahead and give that. So yeah. And wait, I'm not able to look at the other things. Just give me a second. Right. Okay, let me just do a test review to see like how to just show you what the calculator and things are gonna be like. Okay, so there's a test preview here. Okay. So we're just gonna like SAT. Yeah, I'm just gonna show you like what you should take care of and like different tips that you can use during the test in itself. Yeah, it's gonna take a second. Okay. So see, this is how your thing is gonna look like. There's something called as this. This helps you cross out all of the different options. Like I can just cross it out, and this is called as mark. So if I press this in my hold up, yeah. So in my questions, it's gonna show. Like if I mark this question, I can just come back to it later. So it definitely makes itself like much easier. You don't have to look at every single question. Like I said, you won't even be getting that much time to look at every single question. But if you are doubtful, like for example, okay, let's say I don't know this question exactly. I'm gonna cross out the options that I know they're wrong. I come here and then later, I can just like go to the next question, continue, and in the end, when I come back to the previous question, I only have to look at these two options. It's definitely much easier that way. Now, okay, if I'm gonna go here, there's also something called as annotate, in which I can like annotate, like highlight some things or like type down something. I didn't really use this feature at all because I felt like it just wasted my time. If you feel like it does help you better, you can definitely do it. Okay. I don't think the math section is shown here. Um, Let me just see if the math questions are here. Okay, I don't think they have the math question in here. So, okay, we have like a good 15 minutes, all right? Do you guys want to solve these questions right now? Like, you can look at the options and send me your answers in chat box. You can just solve these 8 questions together. Do you guys want to do that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
problem.
okay. Okay, that's it. So let us solve it. I'm gonna give you guys a minute. We'll just look at the question and then I'll see everyone's responses and I'll tell you how, like, what the answer is. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. You guys can give me your answers either. I don't think, don't give it on like on your mic, but just like type it out and I'll like tell about the answer. Wait, if I open chat, are you all able to see it on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So okay, never mind. Okay, so I'm not gonna be waiting for that long. I think a lot of you have said B, that is the correct answer. I don't think anybody needs an explanation, right? Because it says that the language has the same pleasant musical quality, and from all these words, melodic is the only one that means musical quality. So we can just go with this answer. Let's go to the next question. Okay, guys, just give me your like answers if you're ready. Yeah. I'm just gonna
Uh,
wait for like a
so
minute
we
to see.
option D1.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. Here. Okay, I'm gonna maybe wait for a couple more of you to answer and I'll just look at it because you're able to see it as well. So yeah. I just had one thing. You don't have to read the exact, like full the entire paragraph. You can also just look at the options and figure out how it's gonna be. Okay, so I don't think a lot of you have said the answer. I'll just tell you how you should go about these questions. So basically, it says which choices best state the function of the underlying sentence in the overall structure of the text. So here, there's a sentence like the stranger still stood in the exact middle of the cottage where he had first planted himself. His singularity impelled a closer scrutiny. A lean, gloomy figure, hair dark and lank, matted street over his brow. So let's just look at the options. Okay, if you don't understand what this means, that's okay. Let's look at the options. It says it elaborates on the previous sentence's description of the character. So here, okay, does it elab? Okay, so let's look at this part. It says previous sentence's description of the character. So the previous sentence is this. This does not explain about the character of the person, right? Like we're not getting to know about the character. We're just getting to know where he's standing. So this cannot be correct because there is no description of the character given, and neither does it like expand or elaborate on it. Next is it introduces the setting that is described in the sentences that follow. So this option is telling that in the sentences after this, they're describing the setting. But if we see these sentences, this is not his setting, right? It is more about his character or how he looks like and his personality traits. So this cannot be correct as well. Next, we have it establishes a contrast with the description in the previous sentence. So we don't really see a contrast either, because in contrast, you will be able to see words like but or however, yet, things like that, right? Because see, okay, if you're not sure, let's just leave it aside. Next, we see it sets up the character description present in sentences follow. This has to be correct because after this, we see a character description and it begins with the first sentence, like the sentence that is underlined. So D will be the correct answer. Okay, let's go on to the next question. All right, I'm just gonna. So you guys can read the option and then just let me know when I should scroll down. Okay. Yeah, all right. So guys, just try to be a little quicker if you can. And if you don't know how to like go about this question, that's also okay. You can just write that as well. We'll solve it together.
Can you show the option number 4?
Yeah. Okay, so I've had like two different options. Okay, I'm just gonna maybe wait for a minute. If you guys don't know like what to do, then that's also okay. Just let me know so we can like start and solving it instead of like spending more time. All right, okay, so let's like think about these questions and getting a couple of different responses. So first of all, in the paragraph, what is it trying to say? The first claim is that studies have suggested that posture can influence cognition, but we should not overstate this phenomenon. Okay. And then later on, it talks about the study by Megan O'Brien and Ala Ahmed that when subjects are standing or sitting while making risky decisions, there is a change. Like, standing people are physically more unstable and cognitively demanding than sitting. And according to them, the standing subjects who display more risk. Okay. So their entire thing, the study that they're doing is actually supporting the initial claim, right? Because the studies show that because of your posture, there is a change in your cognition. And that is what the study is trying to prove. So knowing this, let's look at the options. Okay, and before that, also, what was the result of the study? They found that even though the candidates were sitting or standing, there was actually no difference in the results. Like they all showed the same level, like the same cognition. So let's look at the main, which choice best states the main purpose of the text. So first one says it argues the research finding about the effects of posture on cognition are often misunderstood, as in the case of O'Brien and Emmett studies. Okay, so okay, it does argue, it does not exactly argue, right? Like it does not tell that what they did is wrong, or like um it does not contradict what I was already told. They're just saying that in the end, there's no difference that was actually found. Okay. All right, leaving that aside, if you're not really sure, let's just let that be, okay? See, we want to find an option that is 90% accurate, okay? Like this one, if you think too hard, maybe it might be correct to some extent, but usually those are not the options. It needs to be like at least 90% correct in the first glance. Next, it presents a study of O'Brien and Ahmed to critique the methods and results reported in previous studies of the effects of posture on cognition. So, what is it saying in this one? It's saying that the previous claim was wrong, and according to their study, they wanted to prove the previous case or uh, previous suggestion wrong. But that's not actually what they're doing, right? According to the study, they want to prove that the previous thing they stated is correct. So this one cannot be the answer because it is telling that yeah, what this previous study showed that is actually true. That's what the case wants to do, but the result was not that. Next, it explains a significant problem in the emergent understanding of posture's effect on cognition and how O'Brien and Emma try to solve that problem. Okay, now with this option, is there really a significant problem? Because the first sentence basically says that some studies have suggested that posture can influence the cognition, but we should not overstate this phenomena. So this is not exactly a problem, right? This is like a hypothesis that has been come up till now because of previous studies, and it's saying that O'Brien and Emma tried to solve it. Now, actually, they did not try to solve it, right? They wanted to see if it is correct or not, or like they wanted to prove that this thing was correct because that was their hypothesis. They thought that if you're standing, you're going to be more risky, but that was not what's true. So this cannot also be the correct option. And then D, it discusses the study of by O'Brien and Ahmad to illustrate why caution is needed when making claims about the effect of posture and cognition. This does seem like the best option because it says caution is needed when making claims, because see, what they had thought was that standing or sitting would affect your cognition, but in the end there was no difference, right? That means we need to be careful about what hypothesis we make, because we don't know which one is actually true, right? Because initially that's what we thought, but then that's not actually true. So D would be the correct answer. If you have any doubts, please let me know. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now because I know the session is like 1 hour long. It's almost like time up. I just wanted to know, like, do you guys want me to like explain concepts, or do you want to solve questions together moving forward? Like, what would you prefer? Or like, do you have preference for math or English? You can let me know right now. All right, guys. Anyone,
Could
if you can
solve
just
the
open your mic.
questions together.
Sorry,
We could solve the questions together.
you prefer that? Yeah, I mean, I thought so
Yeah.
too. That would be like better. And does anyone want to do like math or English? Does anybody have preference, or anything is okay? We could discuss like important questions of cons. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So I'm hearing that we should solve questions together if everyone's okay with that, because then it's not only like me talking, you will also get like be part and like, actually solve questions and enhance your practice. So I think from next time we can start maybe doing a brief like, so I was thinking that we should start with math. We'll start with math and then we will solve questions together. I'll open Khan Academy, and if you have any, okay, guys, just do one thing, yeah. Just go on Khan Academy, just see the different concept that they have. Just look at it. And if you have like a certain concept that you want to focus on more or do questions more of, we can start off with that because they have like individual questions we can do. So just look at that and then let me know. We'll be doing that next session. All right. So yeah, does anybody have anything else to say?
Yeah, no, thank you so much.
Okay, all right, no problem. I hope you guys this is helpful and you got to know about stuff that you can actually apply. So yeah, that's about it, and we'll meet next Sunday. Thank you everyone. You guys can leave now.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
No problem. Okay, bye guys. Okay.